Throughout history, few names have aroused as much reverence and fascination as that of Solomon, the legendary king of Israel. Known as the wisest man who ever lived, Solomon was not only an extraordinary political leader, he also represented an archetype of divine wisdom and occult power. His legacy, engraved in ancient texts and echoing in oral traditions, has crossed borders and centuries, inspiring both theologians and practitioners of mysticism. The Bible describes Solomon as the heir to the throne of David, a king whose wealth and glory were unprecedented. However, what stood out most about him was his wisdom. There are reports that he possessed such a deep understanding of things that he could judge complex disputes and unravel mysteries that baffled even the wisest of his day. According to the scriptures, this wisdom was not an ordinary human talent, but a divine gift bestowed upon him after a prayer in which he asked above all for discernment to rule. As time passed, Solomon's name became synonymous with occult knowledge. Extra-biblical accounts began to ascribe to the king a secret dominion over unseen forces, including the ability to command spirits, both angelic and demonic. This is how the myth of the Key of Solomon came about, a mystical artifact or manuscript that supposedly contained the secrets of his supernatural wisdom. Still, what intrigued future generations most was the paradox of their history. How could someone who possessed so much wisdom and wealth have an end so marked by controversies and deviations? This question led to the incessant search for any vestige of knowledge that could offer answers. A search that eventually led to the discovery of the so-called Lesser Key of Solomon. The journey to unlock Solomon's secrets began centuries after his death. While oral traditions continued to relate the magical feats attributed to the king, scholars and alchemists began to search for something more concrete. The answer came in the form of ancient manuscripts, supposedly dating back to the medieval period, containing precise instructions for magical rituals, invocations, and the creation of symbols known as pentacles. But the history of these manuscripts is shrouded in mystery. The Lesser Key of Solomon, or Clavicula Salomonis, has not been found as a single text. On the contrary, fragmentary versions emerged in different languages and styles, each claiming to be Solomon's rightful inheritance. Many believe that these texts were written by medieval occultists who sought to recreate the king's teachings, while others maintain that they are copies of even older documents, preserved in secret by a line of mystics. The initial location of these manuscripts also arouses speculation. Some scholars suggest that the earliest specimens were discovered in monastery libraries where they had been hidden to protect forbidden knowledge. Others claim that they were found among the belongings of magic practitioners who used them in clandestine rituals. Regardless of how they came to be, these manuscripts aroused an irresistible curiosity. They promised to reveal a world where unseen forces could be understood and controlled, a prospect that fascinated scholars and power seekers alike. However, these texts were not simple to interpret, filled with cryptic symbols and detailed instructions. Their complexity required a level of dedication and study that few could achieve. The fame of the manuscripts grew, as did the fear surrounding them. This raised a crucial question. What did these texts actually contain, and how far could their influence reach? The manuscripts that have become known as the Lesser Key of Solomon continue to intrigue scholars and mystics for what they represent, a link between the tangible world and the invisible forces that supposedly govern the universe. But what do they actually contain? For many, they are not just a guide to rituals, but a map of a knowledge that unites the divine and the human, the spiritual and the material. Unlike the Greater Key of Solomon, which is seen as a more theoretical and philosophical treatise, the Lesser Key is practical, almost manual. Divided into 5 main parts, each section focuses on different aspects of magic, from specific summons to the detailed magical seals, known as pentacles. These symbols, drawn in circles and composed of letters, numbers, and geometric figures, are described as portals of communication with spiritual entities. Among the instructions, there are detailed steps to create magical instruments, prepare the ritualistic environment, and even how to purify the practitioner. But the ultimate goal is not trivial. According to the text, those who master the art described in the Lesser Key can invoke angels and demons to obtain answers, ask for favors, or achieve goals that transcend ordinary human capacity. Interestingly, the lesser key does not treat spirits as adversaries, but as forces that can be controlled. To do this, the practitioner must display authority, usually symbolized by the correct use of the pentacles and the sacred words contained in the text. This is where the danger lies. Any mistake, according to the manuscripts, can reverse the results, causing the summoner to lose control of the forces he seeks to command. However, there is a detail that few notice. The texts, as much as they promise power, are imbued with a tone of humility and reverence for the divine. Often, prayers and invocations to the Creator are included, as if reminding the reader that, even with all of Solomon's knowledge, he never failed to recognize God's supremacy. This duality, power and submission, is one of the most fascinating aspects of the minor key. It is not only a guide for those who want to master the supernatural, but also a reminder of the consequences of defying natural laws. The Pentacles of Solomon's Lesser Key are undoubtedly the heart of the work. Each of these carefully designed geometric symbols carries a specific purpose, such as opening paths to prosperity, healing illnesses, protecting against adversity, or even compelling spiritual entities to reveal hidden secrets. These drawings, apparently simple, hide a complexity that goes far beyond their visible forms. Composed of letters of sacred alphabets and numbers loaded with Kabbalistic symbolism, the Pentacles are described as keys capable of unlocking the portals between the spiritual and physical worlds. For each need, there is a specific pentacle, and its effectiveness depends on the precision with which it is designed and consecrated. The texts state that pentacles function as receivers and transmitters of spiritual energy. For example, Mars' pentacle is used for protection in battles, while Jupiter's attracts abundance and growth. Each of them is associated with specific planets and elements, as if it were a reflection of cosmic forces at work. But what makes them even more intriguing is the way they combine science, art, and spirituality. To create a functional pentacle, it is not enough to follow the technical instructions. It is necessary to understand the meaning behind each stroke and word inscribed. The texts warn that copying the drawings without understanding results in nothing more than a piece of paper or decorative metal. In addition, there are the enchantments that accompany the pentacles. They are a mixture of ancient languages, including Hebrew, Latin, and Greek, and often contain words that seem indecipherable. According to experts, these words are not merely decorative, but carry sound vibrations that help channel spiritual energies. Most fascinating, however, is that the language of Pentacles transcends cultures and religions. Although its origins are deeply rooted in the Judeo-Christian tradition, its geometric and symbolic depictions echo magical practices found in various parts of the world. This raises a crucial question. Is Solomon's Lesser Key a piece of a larger spiritual puzzle that connects different belief systems? Whatever the answer, what the Pentacles tell us is clear. There is a universe of invisible forces waiting to be understood, and Solomon may have been one of the first to unravel its workings. Since it was discovered, the Lesser Key of Solomon has provoked both fascination and distrust. While some see it as a window into the wise king's lost knowledge, others consider it a dangerous portal to the occult. This duality has made the work one of the most controversial texts in mystical history, raising debates about its authenticity, purpose, and even its morality. One of the biggest points of controversy is the authorship of the work. Although Solomon's name is in the title, there is no concrete evidence that the king himself wrote or dictated the instructions contained in the manuscripts. Many scholars believe that the work was compiled centuries after his death, during the Middle Ages, by mystics who sought to consolidate magical traditions from different cultures. Others argue that the texts are fragments of ancient knowledge, transmitted orally since the times of the king. This vagueness has opened the way for extreme interpretations. For advocates of authenticity, the text is a direct reflection of the divine wisdom bestowed upon Solomon. They believe that the practices described in the work were used by the king to maintain peace, prosperity, and security in his kingdom. On the other hand, critics argue that the Lesser Key promotes reprehensible practices such as the invocation of demonic entities, and that its use can lead to disastrous consequences for practitioners. It doesn't help that for centuries the Catholic Church has branded the text heretical. In times of witch hunts, anyone found with a copy of the manuscripts was viewed with suspicion of practicing black magic. For the church, the Lesser Key was more than a dangerous book. It was a threat to the religious monopoly on access to the divine. This official condemnation contributed to the myth that the text was cursed, adding to its appeal among those fascinated by the forbidden. Another layer of controversy comes from modern practitioners themselves. Some see the work as a powerful spiritual tool, capable of bringing healing, protection, and divine guidance. Others, however, report frightening experiences after trying to follow the instructions in the manuscripts. Reports of unexplained phenomena, such as voices, apparitions, and persistent bad luck, circulate among those who have dared to explore the secrets of the Lesser Key. The result is a work that remains surrounded by mystery. To some, it is a testament to the hidden power of Solomon, a man who transcended the limits of human knowledge. For others, it is a dangerous trap, a window into forces that humans should not try to control. What everyone agrees on, however, is that the Minor Key is not an ordinary text. It is a testament to our eternal search for answers to the unknown. During the Middle Ages, the relationship between religion and magic was complex. On the one hand, the Catholic Church promoted the idea of miracles and divine interventions. On the other, it condemned any practice that seemed to seek spiritual power outside the ecclesiastical structure. It was in this context that the Lesser Key of Solomon emerged as a dangerous and deeply forbidden text. Although Solomon's name was revered as that of a great biblical king, the contents attributed to him in the Lesser Key placed his figure in delicate territory. Invocations of angels and demons, the use of Kabbalistic symbols, and the performance of magical rituals were seen as practices contrary to the Christian faith. Any attempt to interact with the spiritual independently was classified as heresy, and those who possessed copies of the Lesser Key were often accused of witchcraft. The Church not only condemned the practice described in the manuscripts, but also feared its potential to disseminate knowledge beyond its control. For centuries, the clergy have played the role of intermediary between God and the faithful. Texts such as the Lesser Key, which taught methods for accessing the divine without the intervention of the Church, posed a direct threat to its authority. In addition, the Church saw the invocation of spirits as an opening to the corruption of the soul. There was a widespread belief that practitioners, even if well-intentioned, could be deceived by demonic entities disguised as angels. This reinforced the idea that any attempt to utilize the teachings of the Lesser Key was not only risky, but inherently sinful. This context led to the persecution of individuals associated with the work. While there are no detailed records of all cases, copies of the Lesser Key are known to have been destroyed or hidden to prevent them from falling into the wrong hands. At the same time, this censorship only increased interest in the text, creating a cycle in which the ban made it even more attractive to those in search of power or spiritual answers. Curiously, there are indications that, even though they publicly condemned the work, some members of the Church kept copies secret. Some scholars suggest that the clergy studied the text to better understand the practices they wished to suppress, while others speculate that they also sought to take advantage of the mystical knowledge contained in the manuscripts. Today, Solomon's Lesser Key is seen in a different light. While it still bears the shadow of its troubled history, many consider it a fascinating piece of a larger puzzle about spirituality, magic, and institutional control. Over the centuries, stories of people who sought the secrets of Solomon's Lesser Key have spread like legends, involving both historical figures and anonymous characters. Some sought power and wealth, others sought divine knowledge or protection. In all cases, the promise of accessing higher forces was irresistible. One of the best-known accounts comes from the figure of the 16th century alchemist, Cornelius Agrippa. Although his direct link to the Lesser Key is debated, Agrippa was known for studying ancient manuscripts and for exploring ceremonial magic. He is believed to have been inspired by Solomonic Pentacles to develop his famous work on occult magic, suggesting that the text's influence went beyond his direct readers. Another fascinating account is that of John Dee, advisor to Queen Elizabeth I. Dee was a mathematician and astrologer who dedicated much of his life to the pursuit of spiritual knowledge. Although his major work involved the Enochian language, supposedly the language of the angels, many scholars suggest that the basis of his studies was influenced by texts such as the Lesser Key. Dee believed that it was possible to invoke and communicate with divine entities, a central idea in the text attributed to Solomon. But it was not only renowned scholars who were interested in the text. More recent accounts tell of ordinary people who found the manuscript in libraries or received it from mysterious collectors. An example is the case of a 19th century French merchant who, after attempting to perform a ritual described in the Lesser Key, claimed to have been haunted by visions and voices. He abandoned the practice and dedicated the rest of his life to warning others about the dangers of the book. Despite these warnings, the Minor Key continued to attract curious people. The promise of absolute power, or at least access to hidden truths, outweighed the fear of the risks involved. This generated a series of conflicting accounts. While some claimed to have succeeded in their goals, others narrated stories of bad luck, inexplicable tragedies, and even madness. The influence of the work was not limited to the West. Manuscripts and translations attributed to the Lesser Key made their way to the Middle East, where they interacted with Islamic magical traditions. This resulted in modified versions of the text, adapted to local beliefs. Even in these contexts, the search for Solomon's secrets remained fraught with mystery and danger. These testimonies reveal an intriguing pattern. As much as the Lesser Key is surrounded by controversy and warnings, it continues to captivate restless minds. It is almost as if the text itself has a magnetism, an irresistible promise that transcends eras and cultures. The most persistent question surrounding Solomon's Lesser Key is simple but powerful. Do pentacles really work? For practitioners and scholars, this question is not just technical, but philosophical, touching the heart of what it means to believe in unseen forces. The texts are clear about the requirements for using the pentacles. They must be designed with specific materials, such as virgin parchment or precious metals, and consecrated with rituals that involve prayers, chanting, and purification baths. Without these steps, the manuscripts warn that pentacles are just worthless drawings. For believers, pentacles are spiritual tools that channel cosmic energies. There are reports of practitioners who claim to have used the seals to achieve protection, prosperity, or even physical healing. A famous example is Saturn's pentacle, often used to ward off evil influences. An 18th century occultist reported that, after carrying the pentacle with him, he escaped unharmed from an accident that seemed fatal. On the other hand, skepticism is also strong. For many, pentacles are nothing more than decorative symbols whose effectiveness is more linked to the practitioner's belief than to any inherent power. This view gained strength in the 20th century with the advancement of science and the rejection of supernatural explanations. However, there is something intriguing about the accounts of those who tried to use the pentacles without following the instructions correctly. Many of these individuals report unexpected consequences, disturbing dreams, feelings of overwhelm, and even strange events such as objects moving on their own. For magical scholars, this may indicate that pentacles function in ways that go beyond rational understanding. Another interesting perspective comes from psychologists. Some theorize that pentacles act as mental triggers, helping the practitioner focus their will and achieve an altered state of consciousness. In this sense, its effectiveness would not be in external forces, but in the ability to influence the human mind. Despite the controversies, the question about pentacles remains unanswered. Whether they are spiritual instruments, psychological tools, or just illusions, they continue to fascinate those seeking to understand the mystery behind the Lesser Key of Solomon. The Lesser Key of Solomon, although originating in ancient times, has established itself as one of the main influences for modern magical practices. From secret societies to renowned occultists, their ideas and symbolism have been reinterpreted and adapted over the centuries, shaping what we know today as ceremonial and esoteric magic. The transition from medieval knowledge to contemporary practices began with the Renaissance, a period in which interest in ancient texts resurfaced with force. Figures such as Agrippa and Paracelsus explored manuscripts that contained fragments of Solomonic content. These occultists played a crucial role in the systematization of magic, creating bridges between ancient mysticism and the more rational thinking of the time. However, it was in the 19th century, with the emergence of groups such as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, that the influence of the Lesser Key took hold. Members of the order such as Samuel Little MacGregor Mathers used translations of the work to develop rituals and practices that mix Jewish, Christian, and pagan elements. Many of the concepts spread by this secret society were later absorbed into traditions such as Wicca and other forms of contemporary magic. In addition, Solomonic mysticism found a new audience in the 20th century with the work of occultists such as Aleister Crowley. Crowley, known for his involvement with the occult in the creation of the system of magic called Thelema, often referenced Solomonic texts in his practices. He saw the lesser key as a tool for exploring the psyche and accessing the subconscious, utilizing the Pentacles and Invocations as a form of self-transformation. But the influence of the work was not limited to magical practices. Its symbolic, aesthetic, and powerful storytelling have echoed in other areas, such as literature and pop culture. Fiction writers such as H.P. Lovecraft were inspired by concepts similar to that of the control of forces beyond human comprehension. Today, the minor key continues to appear in books, movies, and games, cementing its place as an endless source of fascination and mystery. However, its presence in modern magic still generates debate. For some, the adaptation of the minor key to contemporary systems represents a natural evolution of its use. For others, it is a misrepresentation of sacred knowledge, transforming a deep text into something commercial. Despite these controversies, what cannot be denied is that the work has remained relevant, reinventing itself with each generation. Thus, the Lesser Key of Solomon continues to influence both scholars of the occult and those who simply seek a connection with the mysteries of the universe. Even after centuries of study, the Lesser Key of Solomon continues to hold secrets that defy our understanding. After all, what makes this manuscript so fascinating is precisely the fact that it seems to be beyond the full reach of the human mind. Each answer he offers seems to open up new questions, as if his true essence is deliberately hidden. One of the biggest questions is about its origin. Who actually wrote the minor key? Although Solomon's name is linked to it, the absence of concrete evidence of its authorship raises the possibility that the text was a compilation of different sources. Perhaps it was the work of a mystical school or individuals who sought to emulate the knowledge attributed to the king. Still, the precision of the details and the depth of their instructions suggest that the authors, whoever they were, possessed an extraordinary understanding of symbolism, spirituality, and psychology. Another mystery surrounds the Pentacles. How were these symbols conceived? Many of them have geometric shapes that resonate with mathematical proportions, such as the golden number and the Fibonacci sequence. This suggests that pentacles may have a scientific basis that we don't yet fully understand. Some modern scholars speculate that they could function as forms of universal communication, capable of accessing deep parts of the human mind or even dimensions beyond the physical. In addition, there is the question of its effectiveness. Reports about the functioning of pentacles and rituals continue to emerge, but many remain anecdotal without scientific proof. For believers, this does not diminish its validity. On the contrary, it reinforces the idea that magic operates in a realm beyond rational understanding. For skeptics, however, the lack of hard evidence is proof that the lesser key is just a figment of the human imagination. And finally, there is the enigma of its greater purpose. Solomon's lesser key is often seen as a guide to control and power, but there are those who believe that it contains hidden messages about humanity's true role in the universe. Some theorize that the texts were designed to test the morality of those who use them, revealing truths only to those who are spiritually ready. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain: Solomon's lesser key is more than just a text. It is a portal for reflections on the divine, the unknown, and human nature itself. And as long as we continue to search for answers, its mystery will continue to guide us, reminding us that there is much more to the universe than we can imagine. And now the question that remains is, what is your limit to explore the unknown? The Lesser Key of Solomon continues to challenge generations, divide beliefs, and stir up mysteries. Do you believe that it is just a myth, or that it contains secrets capable of transforming the world? Leave your opinion in the comments and share this video with someone who also loves to solve riddles. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because the biggest mysteries in the world are yet to come. And who knows, Is the next secret revealed what you've been waiting for?